Okay, so it's good to have you here again. The roaring lion of Newcastle.
Right.
Very essential. I think we've had this kind of conversations in the past, and one thing I like usually with the conversations is the perspectives that we come up with and the fact that we're able to touch on many things very fast.
Yeah.
So I am so sure that this will not be anything less than what we've had in the past. Like,
Right.
rah.
Right.
So recently, I think it's mid June 2026 that we
Yeah.
began to hear a lot of the Olodo Uprising. When I
Yeah.
did a little digging, I discovered it was YC,
Yeah.
right? The Nigerian rapper
Yeah.
who kickstarted it. So he was on this podcast, and then while being asked questions in conversation, he talked about the Olodo Uprising and he singled out one person. But one of the things that I find, particularly when I picked your book, The Booktiful Love,
A beautiful love.
A
A
Book,
book.
A Booktiful Love, is the fact that you had mentioned this in one of the poems that you released some time ago. So it's almost like a prophecy. And true to the theme of this conversation, it's a prophecy fulfilled.
Yeah, it is a prophecy fulfilled there.
So
And
what was happening in your mind when you wrote the poem
yeah,
at
so
the
the poem is titled Pertinent Questions. And at the time, and it's my collection of poems, A Beautiful Love. At the time, I wasn't really happy about what I saw as a rise of the people who have not contributed much to society in terms of uh, dumping people into a house, call them big brother housemates. Like for me, I think personally, I don't have a problem with Olodo Uprising. Like if the mediocres in society, if they are rising, it's still it bodes well for that society because if the government cannot create anything for them and they are creating work for themselves, they are finding they are contributing to society in some sort of way. We could discuss the merit of what they are doing. Either they are fooling around, but it's paying them, and it's an economy on its own. So I have no problem with that. But I think the problem I had was, and why I wrote that poem was that for every Olodo that is rising, we don't get a commensurate level of rising from those who have gotten like first class from the universities, from the intellectuals, from people who are contributing positively to society, to writers, to creatives. So we don't get like a lot of we don't see society celebrate them. We see the big organizations celebrate these people we call the Olodos of the society. They celebrate them, they throw the money at them. It's more like there's a reward for being intellectually bereft in some sort of way. So more like society, even like the Nigerian society, even rewards people who tend to give less value than those who contribute to society. So that was why I wrote that poem, Pertinent Questions, asking these questions like, why does it not make sense to like support education? What are we not getting right in terms of, picking our priorities? And that led to, it was just, even for me, it was just questions and questions. Not like I had the answers, but I was just questioning the rationale why all of what was happening at the time. You're on mute. Your mic is muted.
So for context, the main persons who will see this video and then they'll be wondering what does the word Olodo mean, right? So
Yeah,
Olodo is a Yoruba word that loosely translates to somebody who is academically weak. Somebody
yeah,
who is not who did not do well or who is not doing well in school, right?
yeah,
And
yeah,
what YC was basically speaking on was the fact that we have these persons who did not do well in school, right? And I'm trying not to call that person's name, but I would at some point in this conversation, right? You see, people rising up from society that clearly cannot put together a grammatical construction, like a sentence that is grammatical. They cannot put it together and, it makes sense. But we see society glorifying them and then, kind of like gravitating towards where they are. So Olodo is basically academically people, and then we've seen the rises. So the collection, A Booktiful Love, was put together in 2020. So
Yeah, 2020.
6 years, that was the COVID season, right? 6 years
Yeah,
after its release, it's
yeah,
still true. It's still true. One would have thought that um, it will begin to reduce, right? Society will then gravitate towards the academically sound people, but it has not changed. BBN just began a few days ago, and
yeah,
trust Nigerian youths and then teenagers. They are tuned watching people live their life, fake
yeah,
life. Let's be clear.
yeah,
Fake lives, because you mentioned it in the piece, the idea of a make believe. I see
yeah,
people living in a world of make believe, and that's what the BBN creates. Anybody going there is basically living a life that will be liked by a lot of people so that they can
yeah,
win the prize. That's not really their life,
yeah,
right? So
yeah,
I noticed that in the first line of the poem, you did something remarkable. You said, the modern has been glorified by this Twitter and Instagram generation. So let me zoom in on the generation. So
yeah,
you would find out that the baby bloomers, right,
yeah,
still have this regard for intellectual competence.
yeah,
But when you now look at the Gen Zs and the Gen Alphas, their role models are these guys. And
yeah,
they want to be content creators because it's a content creator who is raking money and speaking bad
yeah,
English. Right?
yeah.
So speak to this generational thing.
Yeah, so for me, at the point, I just saw the rise of a generation that, you know, endorses or believes in triviality and more like triviality over substance. So it was more of like the more you have something of value to offer, the lesser the importance ascribed to you.
Mm,
So say maybe you're a professor or you were, an intellectual, a medical doctor, or you were, achieving some kind of feat in your field of endeavor. You are not going to get that sort of celebration or anyone lauding you for your achievements. But someone, and what we started seeing, like when I talked about the mundane being glorified by the Twitter and Instagram generation, is more like the more you can fool around, the more the more you can fool around online, the more followers you garner. So people now saw that, people now knew that it was a season of peak fooling, just fooling around, engaging in obscene acts, people chasing clouds for nothing. So, and I think that was what even like prompted me asking all of these questions because I saw that the mundane, the things, the less relevant things have now become more of what has become substantial for this generation. And it worried me. It worried me a whole lot
mm,
because that means you're not, if you don't reward education the way you reward indolence, the way you reward incompetence, the way you reward, because even like I mentioned earlier, people make exploits, academic exploits. They don't get that sort of reward, but you just see someone who is fooling around. They get all of these endorsements, they get all of this support, and then they now make jokes of those who have gone to school or gather graduates, gather them and make so those ones now make a fool of themselves because they are looking for jobs. But I feel like if you have like a culture whereby we celebrate excellence, we celebrate academic excellence, then it gives people the opportunity to say, okay, I would rather go to school than, even if I want to be fooling myself online, I will say I will understand the importance of education say if I know that if I make a first class from university, maybe I have a guaranteed job or I have a scholarship for something from the government, then everyone, it elevates the dreams of those who are aspiring for that sort of thing as well. But when people see like in society is the cloud chasers, people who are chasing the clouds online, who are chasing the algorithm, then it dissuades those who aspire to become, people of importance, to become relevant in the future, because they know that even with my first class, I just get like some was even like 1,000 naira, 10,000 naira. Like when you see like the ridiculous amount they give to them, then
Mm.
it leaves me worried.
It's very worrisome. One of the social media apps I'm very big on these days is LinkedIn. So there are
Yeah,
many times you just see this person who had a 4 points, maybe 80 or thereabouts,
yeah,
4.90, and you would notice that there's a time when that happens, a lot of people will come around, congratulations, like it's a big deal, right? This person really
yeah,
struggled to get it, and it means that some doors have opened for this person because of
yeah,
their achievements
yeah,
intellectually and academically. But it's not the case now. Even when we say congratulations, we just know that you've entered the labor market now. You come and see what other people are saying. So, do you think that a lot of what we find, particularly with the hype, because some of the persons who are at the side where they are praising the movement, I discovered that the freeze. Anyway, I'm not surprised that the freeze is okay. Let me not say what is in my mind. But it's a very interesting person. He has I would say it. He knows how to position himself at that point to where the algorithm would favor him. That's
yeah,
that's my obvious and sincere take on him. So you find out that he now backed Pella, particularly when he's recently, sometime in July, when his wedding scene came up, you find out that he began to side him and say, how many Nigerian graduates can afford to pay bride price? So it seems like it's a cultural thing that culture somehow accepts and have endorsed these people who we know as the Olodos and giving them a premium with as opposed to um, the intellectual. So where do you see endorsement, particularly from culture, from the baby bloomers, playing out in the rise of the Olodo uprising?
yeah. So, for me, like I said before, like I think for a more balanced argument and perspective as well, like I said before, I don't really have a problem with the Olodos who are rising, because for me it's a failure of government. But I think the problem for me was that it shouldn't be at the detriment of intellectuals, because these people have some sort of gifts, talents to create, even though it could be through pick fooling and all of that. But I think for me, while you are celebrating the, you know, the Olodos in the society, when you are celebrating the cloud chasers, all of these people who are fooling online, don't forget the intellectuals, don't forget, you know, because when we talk about education being being the bedrock of every society, then we must also encourage people who are passing through the channel of education, because no matter what, you could be the most successful, content creator, or you could be successful in whatever you're doing. However, even with that education, how do you manage the resources? How do you manage, the wealth? There are some things like only education would give you an advantage, would give you that edge, that advantage. So for me, like, so the issue is not, I think for me, the main problem at that point in time was around why is society just solely focused on this set of individuals? Why are we not celebrating our intellectuals? Why are we not having honest conversations about supporting intellectuals to build a more fairer society, to build a more developed society. It was more of like the cloud chasers, the slay queens, the Instagram billionaires with no source of wealth. These were the people that people were gravitating towards. Even we had people like Osh Poppy. We had people like people who were engaged in fraud, in cross border fraud. They were being celebrated. Every young person wanted to be an Osh Poppy. Even the Daddy Freeze you talked about, he took a tour of Osh Poppy's mansion, a house in Dubai. So it was just a cool thing. It was competing with musicians, like really top musicians. It was outspending them.
Hmm.
So so for me, it was just these were all the questions that came around, not even like the not just Olodo in terms of pig fooding alone. It was more like you go online, people with no job, nothing of substance they are doing, they are the ones being celebrated because they have some dodgy money that no one knows how they got it. So for me, it was just a question that addressed the whole of society, what we have become. And that's where the line, a first class degree prize is a pittance. Okay, from let me pick you up after the Instagram generation. Big Brother Africa's house may become national heroes while education takes a backseat. A first class degree prize is a pittance.
Hmm.
Short and sweet is a new game. Make your point in 160 characters. If it's that important, then it will be worth a read. Reading walks away in surrender with a look that screams, they don't read books anymore. On Instagram, it's all a smoke screen. I see people living in the world of make believe. Cloud chasers, slay queens, Instagram billionaires with no known source of wealth. So I now said the other day, depression walked in through the back door, strutted the runway of the underachievers and subdued to the yearn for freedom. So even those who some people now equate their lives to these people, even though
Hmm.
they are cloud chasers, they are Instagram billionaires. So you look at yourself and feel like, oh, I'm worthless. People are
Hmm.
depressed on the back of just going online and seeing people. Oh, look at people living the soft life. Nobody wants to work hard anymore. So it was just these were just pertinent questions addressed to the whole of society, the Olodos in society, the Instagram slay coins, the cloud chasers, the billionaires that had no source of wealth, they till they yet for freedom. Stupidity trends for being plain stupid, and our headline news is just unworthy. Star
Hmm.
actor kisses his girlfriend at the mall. Starboy eats fresh or stale still. Irrelevance is the new cool. Opinions are now on the cheap, on sale in that corner shop. Those came through these personal questions. Reflect and don't let them deter you. So for me, it was more of like just addressing the whole of society, looking at the way society had evolved at the time, and at the time, like I always say, oh, poets are seers. Poets always like see into the future, even though at the time, what I saw at that time has now even become like a national conversation in 2026.
Yeah.
Because at the time I was like, this is just not right.
Hmm.
When we have a society whereby we celebrate relevance, it's the people who are twerking their bomb bomb that people celebrate. They are the coins. They are and if you are doing something worthy of note, like you mentioned, if somebody's just gotten the IGP, CGPA, the reward isn't there.
Hmm.
And I saw that you cannot build a culture, you cannot build a country on the shoulders of the intellectually bereft. You need
Hmm.
to be the academically sound people along as well. So I think it was a great conversation that YC, brought into the fore. And even politically, we could also look at it like the former president of Nigeria, President Buhari, compare him to his vice president, a professor of law.
Hmm.
So even within that presidency, you could see that here was a professor of law who was academically sound, who was brilliant, who was an erudite, who was a scholar on every front, having to report to someone as, you know, intellectually weak as Buhari. So even within the corridors of power, we see that even in the Nigeria of today, we see that those who are front and center in the government are just, they will talk about maybe third division ruling the Premier League,
Hmm.
because in a country where you have all of these achievers all around the world who have all of these intellectuals, is people you don't actually know a lot about them, how they got into wealth, people with criminal cases. Look at the corridors of power. So the Olodo uprising is everywhere. Is in the government, is in ministries, is in
Hmm.
where you see where indolence is being celebrated over the academically sound.
That's
Anywhere you see whereby they reward incompetence over competence, then you know
Olodo
that
Uprising.
there is a rise of Olodo. If
Hmm.
anywhere you see that they give people oil blocks because of who you know, they give
Hmm.
you because of who you know, they reward you based on connections, based on nepotism. That is a rise of the Olodos. So for me, I won't address it. I won't just put it in the box and say, oh, only those who those who do the pick fooling online, the ones who try to, yeah, those ones that are trying to make legitimate also. My my grasp with that is that society cannot just reward those and ignore those who labor, who toil for, to achieve academic excellence. That's not a great way to build a worthy
Hmm.
society. But the rise of Olodos, it's everywhere. The
Hmm.
corridors of power. You look at some
Yeah,
states
there.
and their governors. This is like there's a it's more like Nigeria rewards you for being an Olodo. Like
That,
it's
that's
more
crazy.
like there's a special reward
Hmm.
for being an Olodo, for being incompetent. You can be a NURTW chairman and become a governor. The odds of
Hmm.
being a governor from being an Agbero, or
Hmm.
from
It's
having a
high.
criminal, or
Depending
from
on
having
who you know.
or from having a criminal case in the US to becoming a minister or a chief of staff
Hmm.
is so high
Hmm.
than for you to be clean as a whistle, for
Hmm.
you to be recognized, or for you to achieve something worthy of note, for you to be recognized. So I think
Hmm.
it's a whole of society problem rather than just putting
A
it in
certain group
one
of
face
persons.
or just say, oh, let's target a specific set of people. Is a
Hmm.
whole of society.
Hmm.
Is the people who are looking for giveaways from people who have no known source of wealth. Is the
Hmm.
people who adore the slay coins. The more bomb you can show online, the more cleavage, flesh you can become famous on the back of that. But if you are, doing something worthy of note, you will toil and you could just be that you could feel invisible. But
In this.
the noisemakers, the ones who have turned their life into content, they
Hmm.
get the most highlights, and that for me was a big problem.
And I like the way you captured this. The fact that what we find in the Olodo Uprising recently is the fact, I think they singled out one person, and then Pella. Pella was the man of the match. And many persons kept, really, the man of the match kept bombarding him and then calling him out. He had to respond and said, why should they point to him as the leader of that pack? But you find out that, but looking at it from a perspective, it is not just those ones who are there in the media space. We find them in all walks of life. It's almost
Yeah,
like a systemic problem where
yeah, it is.
those ones who are not academically sound have like the front seats, and the others are meant to take the back bench, no matter how intellectually sound you are. So I like the fact you are moving the conversation from just a person or a particular group to say there are many persons that fill in this missing gap, particularly a system. And if you look at, it's not what we have in Nigeria is not what you find in many other places. There's some cultures that even in the 21st century, even in 2026, you find that they still place premium, particularly on intelligence, like the Indian society, the Chinese society,
Yeah.
right? You find the Japanese too, a lot of premium. I saw a video where Trevor Noah was talking about something he noticed in Japan, that particularly when you go to the Disney house in Japan, the playground, there's a line. Nobody breaks the line, whoever you are. You have to follow that line, right? And then, so there's premium on respect, there's premium on seniority, on intellectual competence, as opposed to, and what you find in those places where those ones who are academically sound are not relegated is there is
Yeah.
progress. So compared, let's do a little comparison now with what you find in, you are based in UK. So what you
Yeah.
find in UK, and you stayed very long in Nigeria. So what you find in both places, what will you say about the effects of extolling or praising or venerating Olodos versus those ones who are intellectually sound?
Yeah, for me, I think we need to build a skills-based society. If you look at most of the advanced countries of the world, that is what they do in terms of building skills for their people. So it could be young or old, the society thrives. You see, like young people going into apprenticeships to get the skills, and that is why most of these advanced nations they thrive mostly on building the experience as well. And I think what all of these other nations, what they've done and what they've perfected so well, is to have a system that ensures that even if you want to become a content creator, you could, go to college, learn those skills. You could everything could be done in a structured manner
Mm,
rather than people just doing things rather than just having the culture of anyhowness, like you get.
mm,
So if you want to become like a content creator, you want to be anything that is skills based, you could go to college and learn that particular skill set. So for me, I think most of these advanced nations compared to a place like Nigeria, they focus a lot on skills, on experience as a foundation of building the sort of society they have today, rather than having a country whereby there are a lot of jobless people. And that's why I said I cannot really blame the people in that respect if they feel like, oh, they want to do content creation or whatever they want to do to make ends meet and create jobs in the informal economy, since
mm,
we all can admit that the government has failed the people. So we can't blame them from from that sort of context.
mm,
However, we can now blame the whole of the pandemic happening within the whole of society, whereby we elevate irrelevance over, you know, academic excellence, over academic ingenuity, over people who are doing, things that are worthy of note within our society or even internationally. We rather celebrate our third division team and leave out those who we believe who could help the nation to move forward, to drive technological advancement, to drive innovation. We rather support the people shouting online, people doing nonsense like just putting on the camera and just because they are looking for revenues, they're looking for revenue online. So we rather celebrate those. So for me, my major issue, and I think the major difference between a place like the UK is that society is structured. So even
mm,
if people are doing content, it's more of like in a structured way, not like this is a society of laws. You won't see someone driving the car, for example, and pressing the phone and shooting content, and you know that I can do anything and get away with it because I'm a content creator or because I'm a famous content creator, and you get involved in a crash. That could earn you like a ban, like somewhere like the UK, you are driving because you're a content creator. So that's why I said there is in the country like the UK, there's a lot of structure because it's a country of laws.
Mm.
It's a country that it cares for its people as well, in terms of just having that structure in place to elevate them, to educate them, to give them. Not everybody has to go to school in terms of university education. But if you want to go to college, if you want to learn skills, it's a skills-based economy. So I
Mm.
think for Nigeria to achieve that sort of parity as well, it has to be a country that provides skills for the people as well, give them skills to thrive, and let them also see the benefit of education as well. Because education makes all of the difference. But for you to for it to make all of the difference, or for people to understand that, you need to elevate it to the front burner as well. So I think that's one of the like a point I would like to bring to the front burner as well.
And very relevant, very relevant. And true, if you look at it squarely, the informal sector is prospering in Nigeria.
Yeah,
Yeah. And a lot of the reason is because you find government failure in their
yeah,
ability to provide jobs. Not even jobs, let's leave job, even the enabling environment
yeah,
for entrepreneurs to flourish. So you see people just finding ways to make a living. And one of the things I find in Pertinent's question, that poem in A Booktiful Love, is the fact that this adoration of the Olodos has an effect on the generation. So there are
yeah,
times I look at the Gen Zs and the Gen Alphas, and it's you just cannot but pity that generation, because a lot
yeah,
of what we find is the role models when the baby boomers were growing up, the people they were looking to become. They are
yeah,
the professors that,
yeah,
oh, I'm a professor, you know. There are
yeah,
families that grew up with the mindset that my family will produce a professor. Now we have a
yeah,
system that has glorified Olodos to a point where you see a mother going to get a job, going to take a job that this contribution, is susu,
yeah,
for the
yeah,
child to get a mobile phone to do
yeah,
Yahoo,
yeah,
become big and then be oppressive. So the values are shifting, and
yeah,
it must have an adverse effect on the system. So you see the rise of cruise contents. They go online, and like you said, go to TikTok now. I somehow discourage my students from TikTok because I think there's a lot of brain drain in what
yeah,
happens there, and the kind of challenges they do is crazy. I went
yeah,
online one time and I saw something, and I was like, "Really, this is a challenge?" So, so, and the person who was at the helm of it was a celebrity, right? A note a an interesting celebrity. And so because she pushed that content out, these young people were now compelled to follow in that line. So
yeah,
what led to the Olodo uprising are some persons who now they could not do well in school. So they found a way to make ends meet, become popular. And because of the values and ethics they have, they push all of that in their content. And what is happening is that there is a high level of impact from that stream to even the odds, like to raise academics and intellectual sagacity, high from where it has been dropped. Don't you think there needs to be there's the Olodo uprising, there needs to be the bookworm uprising or the intellectual uprising. So intellectuals have to, I think it's not something we can outsource to certain people. It's something that intellectuals have to rise to and then begin to make intellectualism, academic excellence, fashionable again. I think that's the way to go. What do you think?
yeah. I agree with your notion like 100%. I feel like, and I think before I mentioned like it's a whole of system problem, and I think is the solution as well would have to be like a whole of system solution in terms of intellectuals like me, like people of like minds are the people who would continue to like chip in here and there, see how we can support excellence in our communities, how we can, like at the Royal Lion Newcastle, we have a scheme to support Nigerian writers. to say, okay, you are writing, you could be experiencing financial difficulties. We see you, we see your talent, we would support you.
Wow.
So for me, that is the one way to contribute
Wow.
to the rise of intellectualism within the society. We see you, you don't even need to submit anything. We'll just assess what you've done before. We'll see what the issue is. So for me, I feel like people who have the resources have to support all of these courses, educational courses, the competition, the maths competition, English competition, the science competition, and put prizes to it. Someone that has gotten a clean slate CGPA from the university, what are
Mm.
you giving them? Are you giving them a job with the leading industries? Are you recruiting them? So before you throw money at some people who are coming to a national TV show to fornicate, to kiss, to shower naked, and before to twerk their bomb bomb and have sex and do all of these things that doesn't improve society, what are you doing for those who have gone through who have gone through the four walls of the university, who have gone on to achieve something something of note? How do we reward them? So when
Mm.
you build a society that way, people you see young people growing up as well. Oh, I want to be like that guy who went to Unilag and made like a 5.0 CGPA. There are people now start having new role models in the society.
Mm.
If you
Mm.
know someone who went to school and say MTN just gives that one, gives them a car for having a clean slate 5.0 guy, everybody wants to go to school
Yeah.
and to do it. So for me, I think it has to come from like a sort of a whole of society approach as well. And everyone has to contribute and do their own part, the big corporations, the institutions, and also we need to like encourage, like just ensuring that the right people get into the right positions as well. That way, because even if it's in society, I feel like, oh, how is this guy our president? How is this
Mm.
guy, how is this guy my governor? Like seriously, then you feel like there are some. I think there are a couple of governors in Nigeria that cannot even speak. Like they cannot even construct a sentence
Agreed.
in 2026. Someone that can never add one, like can never add numbers. So you get like it's a big problem, and you give the fiscal development of a state to someone like that. I think
Mm.
that's
How would
a
they
whole
build
lot problematic.
build it?
Someone who can even add common mathematical equation together. You
Mm.
give that person billions of naira to
Mm.
oversee. That's a
What would
recipe
what
for
would they do?
failure. So for me, I feel like it's a whole of society approach as well in terms of finding solutions to it. Everyone doing their own part, to elevate the discourse as well. So
Mm.
we all do our part to elevate the discourse, and I think that will be the approach. Like, and we also, and I think what we need to do is celebrating less of these people. I know you talked about weird challenges on TikTok. Like I've seen crazy challenges. Some
Ooh.
people will tell, like there are some guys who are on TikTok who tell ladies to go naked, remove this, remove that, and they will do it on the live stream.
Yes.
So it goes to show the decay in the society.
Mm.
So it's a
Mm.
pandemic of the Olodos. It's
Mm.
no longer an uprising. Like it's a,
Is it
it's a
fun?
pandemic and it's
Mm.
everywhere. So, but I think even having conversations like this will help to bring it to the front burner as well. And we need to keep asking the pertinent questions.
Please.
Why
Please.
why is it the cloud chasers, the slay coins, the people who have no source of wealth? Why are
Mm.
they the one that society keeps elevating? The Yahoo boys, the big spenders with no work,
Mm.
with no, we can't trace anything to them. Why is it that they are the ones that society celebrates? So I think it's a whole of society problem, and only a
Mm.
whole of society solution can resolve this as well.
Yeah, a systemic solution. So everybody has a part to play, right? One of the
Yeah,
things that has given boost to the Olodo Uprising is the reward system
yeah,
attached to that framework, right? The
yeah,
streaming platforms that these guys go on and then they say all the things they want to say. rewards them for their effort and their time. So you see
Yeah.
platforms like TikTok, platforms like all the streaming platforms available. So they
Yeah.
pay their users, particularly their big time users, and then they
Yeah.
make money. They splash this money they've made,
Yeah.
and it's encouraging the system. So if we also, like you said, if we also reward the system effectively, so one that has a 5.0, and the person has maybe by these organizations, MTN, Glow, this big one of their CSRs now becomes finding these people who have made it, particularly in the ivory towers, and
Yeah.
then funding them, funding their research. Because
Yeah.
that's what you find in civilized countries. They go and then they fund their researches. They
Yeah.
go and then they recruit them into these big companies. So when young people see things like that, they begin to yearn for it. But somebody
Yeah.
who has a first class that they know is roaming the streets looking for
Yeah.
jobs. That's not an incentive to pursue
People
that
will,
kind of a
people
system.
will make fun of first class graduates. They're like, oh,
Do
that
you
guy
get?
that made first class in my set,
Okay,
that
do you get?
is he struggling himself. Me that
Do,
I made top class, I'm a
do you get?
chairman. You get like, yeah,
So
so they be like, able to make the first class, people are not deriding people that made the first class, like, has
mm,
not even gotten his life all together and he made first class.
mm.
So so
So in
now
that,
to even make the first class now becomes like it's more like a cross
mm,
because now you have to prove that you've made a success within the four walls of the university. Can you really make a success of life?
you
So
get,
I think it's even like a burden to them because
mm,
now they have to prove themselves. They have to prove that. Although for me, I wouldn't judge like maybe with the Nigerian educational system. If someone makes a third class in Nigeria or makes a 2-2, they could if they were schooling abroad, they could make a first, a distinction, or make like a second class or a commendation of merit. So I wouldn't judge people solely based on what Nigerian university offers them.
mm.
Because some lecturers they are known to say, oh, first class
Ooh,
is for God, second
yeah.
second class upper is we can have that one, or maybe second class upper for select few, second
Mm,
class lower. So there are some of those challenges, sex for marks and all of those sort of issues. So for me, I wouldn't just maybe judge people based on that solely, but I think there must always be a reward for academic excellence. We must promote that. We must let people understand that education makes all of the difference, and
mm.
that would mean a whole lot. And yeah, but it has to be like a whole of system approach.
Yeah, not an individual, a systemic approach. So we
Yeah,
have, there is something this in Nigerian is trying to do. It's still in the works. The big brain Niger, Charles Awuzie, a notable Nigerian based in South Africa. So he's trying to, do something like the BBN. These people are pumping money into the system,
yeah,
and it's it continues to make dumb Nigerians because these Nigerians just what they do is they just sit watching their Go TV or their DSTV to see how they are behaving, and many of the things that over the years they are becoming more lewd. Some of
yeah,
the activities they do, there are things that should not be done in public. Many of them are parents, but
yeah,
they are portraying a lifestyle, and these young people are now emulating it. But when
yeah,
you what because if you know how much they win from the whole thing, it's quite
yeah,
some, and the
yeah,
publicity it brings for them. Many of them become brand ambassadors. They become, these top people that nobody knew. So
yeah,
the reward system will go a long way if it's put into place to go a long way to override the system so that intellectuality now takes the front burner because
yeah,
many nations are built on that pedestal. Nations that are rising today, are built on research. You see
yeah.
people searching, people going the extra mile to create, to innovate.
Innovation, research, development, automation. But in Nigeria, we're talking about VPN. Our conversations, like in 2026, is just like
The fast,
nobody is talking about artificial intelligence, how they're using to scale at scale at pace, develop industries using AI. But the kind of things we talk about, we are just
conversation.
way behind.
And even when they use AI, you find out that they just outsource their thinking to AI. I saw something that Mark Zuckerberg released yesterday, his financial report for
Yeah.
the season, and then he was talking about how AI is at the front burner of the operations at Meta. Is it
Yeah.
somebody like that using AI to challenge his thinking to make his products better? But the conversation here is over the past few days, we checked what has been going on Twitter, on Threads, WhatsApp status. Is this particular who are you voting for? Who will win BBN? That's the prediction going on, and it's producing a nation of people who will later on begin to blame society. American
Yeah.
society, the Chinese society, you see, a lot of them are privately built. Entrepreneurs
Yeah.
taking, entrepreneurs taking. Look at yourself, for example, right? You are in UK and you have this publishing outfit, and you're not waiting for the UK government to start pushing funds your way. You are doing
Yeah.
something with what you know how to do and what you have, and then
Yeah.
creating wealth for yourself and
Yeah.
so reward system, right? So we said many things as we begin to wind the conversation down, right? We've said that the problem is not that these people should. We've created a system in Nigeria where the informal sector is thriving because of the
Yeah.
failure of government. So
Yeah.
where these persons find a way through the internet to make wealth, to make fame, right? It's not the problem. It's the problem here now becomes that we have allowed intellectualism to take the back burner. And I
Yeah.
like the fact that you added that these things, the Olodo Uprising, can be found everywhere in society. You see them in politics, you see them in administration, you see them in every
Yeah.
aspect of society. You find representation of the Olodo Uprising. But if we begin to reward intellectualism, academic achievement more, the tables will turn. And I like the fact that you said that it will take a systemic approach for the
Yeah.
tables to shift. It's not something one person can do. It's something
Yeah.
that corporations should start thinking about. The government should start thinking about, right? And wealthy individuals,
Intellectuals. Yeah.
intellectuals, conversations
Yeah.
that spur creativity, that spur the need to put on the thinking cap. When we start that kind of conversation and that shifts, I think there will be a lot of difference in a society. Will produce a society where there is research, there's innovation, there's automation. The GDP increases because many people are creating these unicorn companies that are
Yeah.
challenging the best in Europe. So, as a final comment on our conversation, the Olodo Uprising, a prophecy fulfilled. How do you wrap it all up?
Yeah. I feel, yeah, it's a prophecy fulfilled. The rise and continued rise of the intellectually bereft in society, and we all have to join hands together to to stop the virus, because it's a virus that is spreading rapidly.
A strong.
We all have a role to play as parents, as leaders, as friends, as brothers, as family members. You know, because culturally as well, our culture is shifting as well. For me, we need to build a society where, you know, we preserve our culture, we have values that we hold on to as well, and we celebrate people for what they really do, not for what we perceive them to be doing.
Mm,
Because
mm,
perception most times is different from reality. So the fact that someone has shown you a Rolls Royce, a Bentley, and all of that doesn't mean that they've acquired all of those like legitimately. So I think we need to build a society that cares for the people as well. We need to also build a skills-based society, and at every opportunity we have, we need to always celebrate the intellectuals We need to support education. We need to support educational courses. I think for me, that would be a fantastic way to build a society that works for everyone. As I close.
Hmm. Okay. One more question. We are looking at the pertinent question. One of
Yeah,
the poems in A Booktiful Love, a book
yeah,
you released at the heart of the pandemic in 2020, right?
yeah,
So we see how literature, poetry can have prophetic value, how we
yeah,
can speak of things to come and then the present, right? So what would you say to that writer, because we are having this conversation because of the poem you wrote
yeah,
6 years ago, right? And we are having a conversation basically on the neck of the current happening in
yeah.
Nigerian society. So, what would you say? We want to speak to those ones who are buying into the Olodo Uprising. They are the fans of the Olodo Uprising. What would you say to that writer who is gifted, is skilled? He or she has tried again and again to put words to pen, and then it's magical what is going on. But society has taught him over time that there is no place for that skill, particularly if wealth, impact, influence is what you are chasing. So that person is now segueing from being that writer he's called to be to, pushing content, doing cruise, being checking bomb, and all of that. So what will you say to that person?
Yeah, for me, I would say keep writing. Don't move away from your gift, from your talent, from your writing. For me, what I find mostly is that you as persons or as a people, we might believe that maybe no one is seeing us, but the fact is that a lot of people see what we do.
Mm,
They see our work, they see our writings. So just keep doing what you are doing. And and for me, even as a writer, like I tell people that it's okay if you're a writer and you also have other things that you do with that. Not everybody will be that writer that will sell out 1 million copies or 10 million copies and all of the bestsellers. So if it's okay and you have other skills, you have another career path you can combine with being a writer, yeah, that's fine. But don't let the rise of the Olodos deter you as a writer. Just keep doing your thing. Your voice will be heard someday as well. Because so this cannot go on forever. And that's the truth.
mm,
Like for in every country, every system, seasons come and go. So the fact that all of this is what is taking precedence in 2026, since 2020, 2018, and all of that, like for let's say over the last 10 years, does not mean this is the way it would always be. So for me, I would say keep doing your thing. Do not let anything deter you. And one day or someday, the sun will shine again.
mm. Powerful. So in closing, let me read one of your quotes I find very fascinating. It is, writers are prophets. They see into the future. Their words are immortal. We writers act as moral compass when they choose to support the voiceless. And that's what I found in your work, whether it is poetry, it is children literature, whatever the genre you are putting together. I found your work to always be like that voice for the voiceless, the people who cannot be heard. Your poem finds a way to bridge the gap and to, more than anything, show society itself. For example, the poem you're looking at, Pertinent Question, in A Booktiful Love, you find how satirical it is. You are showing society what it is, and the goal of that is to
Yeah.
cause a change. So it's been amazing having this conversation with the Lion of Newcastle. Ah!
Wow. Yeah.
It's an honor to sit with you and to communicate. It's time just flies, and nobody
Yeah.
knows how long we've been on the call.
I know it was nice talking to you as well. Thank you
Really,
so much for
really nice.
yeah. Thank you so much.
So
Enjoy the conversation with you.
yes, so surely this will not be the last. We'll have so many conversations bordering on literature, society, and the future of our collective existence together. So it's from me, I thoroughly enjoyed my time on this call. Thank you for making that happen, sir.
Thank you. Nice talking to you.
Same here. So,
Yeah. Bye.
so do have a wonderful one, sir.
You too. Bye.